Good to be back again, DLS Wave, another episode. Question: is Africa perfect?
It's a big no.
No, but I think so is the rest of the world, right? It's not a perfect world. We all make our mistakes. Our leaders, we can't really trust them. Viral video, there is a man going super viral talking about how Europeans are not stealing from Africa in this modern day and age. So what he's trying to say is that we have to take responsibility basically for our own inadequacies and the development and not being able to catch up with the rest of the world or to the rest of the world.
If you've been on TikTok for a while, you must have heard about a ton of Africans telling you that Europeans stole Africa's resources. Now, there's a lot to say about that. First and foremost, most of these resources are still in Africa, and they're not being stolen by Europeans. They're actually being sold to Europeans by the African state leadership. Your own elites are robbing you. It's not us doing it, not anymore. The real issue, of course, is why aren't Africans using their own resources to do things? Why does Mr. Beast have to go to Kenya to build water wells? Why didn't the Kenyan government do it themselves? I suppose the Kenyan government could have done it themselves. They just chose not to do it. Nigeria is now a country of almost 220 million people, the largest country in Africa. But they only produce about 10% of the electricity that a small country like Hungary. Hungary only has 10 million people, but they produce 10 times as much electricity as Nigeria does. I mean, I know you want to have your Wakanda, right? But do you expect white people to give it to you? No, you're supposed to build it yourself. Having said all this, it is of course obvious that we Europeans in the north need to prepare for a possible, potential African rise in terms of technology and therefore also in terms of military capacity. And that means we in Europe need to already start looking ahead and thinking ahead about how we are going to win the war against Africa.
Does he have a point? Or is he just gaslighting us, everybody's saying? DLS coming at you. We're here to discuss that. Now, whatever we say, our opinions, we're sure you have your opinions as well. So we have this guy talking about, we don't really know if he's ignorant, he's just trying to gaslight the internet, let people kind of get ice on him. We don't really care about that. We just care about the words that came out of this man's mouth. So what we're saying is, at the end of the day, does he have a point to all this gibberish he was spewing, or it's just total BS? What do you think? I mean, an overview. Do you think this guy's got a point, or he's just trying to get ice on him?
I think if we have to be honest, he's got a point, because even we Africans, because he's talking about Africa, even we Africans accept that we are not where we should be in terms of our GDP and economic development and the wealth of the continent trickling down to the ordinary person. Yeah. So in terms of that, I think he has a real point. But I mean, there are some other aspects that will go into the discussion.
Yeah, it's true. This is exactly what we need to hear. For me, it is about time we call a spade and not hiding.
And not a garden tool.
Yes,
or
not a garden
spoon.
tool or not a little spoon. We all know our leaders. Some, they failed us. We also know we have selfish, self-centered people in our midst, and then we also know we have what we call in Ghana sellouts. You understand? Yeah. They will forever be in our midst, and
they're not going nowhere.
No, they're not going nowhere. And things like this, when you hear, it hurts because you can see that's the truth. But we don't need him to come and tell us.
And it hurts also because it's the truth, and also the fact that you know it's the truth, but there's nothing you can do about
exactly.
It.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now I think we can flip the coin and go back to the European side of things. I mean, we can generalize and say the West in general. Yeah. So do you think they have no effect on where Africa is right now?
Let me answer this. Every continent, let me put it that way, every continent does business with other continents,
Yeah.
But every country has the right to pick who they do business with, who they allow to exchange resources with. If you allow people, for instance, like Ghana, if you allow people to come in and take your resources, not that they came in with those days like with spears and guns and stuff. They come in a more economical way. Let's sit down and talk, and they outwit you, or you for what we most of us know is the truth is our people are selling our stuff for cheap.
Right.
You cannot blame those people because nobody does a business and wants to lose.
Right, exactly.
So what you're saying is pretty much our political leaders are inept, right? They're not up to the task
Exactly
that we
what
are
I'm saying.
expecting them to do.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I think I'll add to what he said about the lack of leadership. It also boils down to lack of leadership because our leaders, sometimes they act like King Kong. They want to put themselves in there. I believe that the reason why many countries have advanced is because they have systems in place. It's not the individuals' decisions in the office that make the country, but it's a system that the leaders will create. So I'll give this typical example. A few years back, Ghana and Ivory Coast, we are the two largest exporters or growers of cocoa. Came together to set the price of cocoa just like the OPEC countries do with oil. And there was this big backlash because our president said, I think the cocoa industry is worth billions, but between Ghana and Cote d'Ivoire, we only earn like a couple of billions. Now, when that happened, major chocolate manufacturing companies, instead of buying from the, say, cocoa board in Ghana and the other body from Ivory Coast, whose main core responsibility is to buy from farmers and then sell off to international buyers. What these international chocolate manufacturing companies were now doing was coming into the country, disguising themselves, and going into the farmers, and negotiating with them directly. There is a documentary out there. So when that happens, it just means that we just say things. We don't follow up with policies and systems. Because if you have a system, then you can say that, okay, unless this export has this document, which is approved by a state agency, not a single grain of cocoa is allowed to leave the country. And if you have systems like this, then it's difficult. You can come in and go and engage with the farmers, but you can't get it out of the country.
Is the farmer side, I wanted to add this. If, like you're saying, there's a law, those farmers will be under one umbrella.
Right.
So nobody can go behind and buy from
an individual farmer.
But you come, bring a policy, and then you just leave it, right? Whilst even the farmer doesn't even have an idea of what is going on.
Right.
Because they are, quote unquote, local farmers.
All right, so if I'm getting you guys right, what you guys are trying to say is it's more of like bad policies from the government?
It boils down to our leaders.
I don't even think it's bad. I think the policies are there, but we don't implement them.
We don't implement our policies.
Okay, bad implementation of policies. But, okay, I think every African home, it re-echoes like, time and time again, as seeing like, our leaders are stooges, they are the puppets of the West. Why do you think that is? And if we know the answer to that, why is there such a stronghold from the Western leaders on our leaders?
You use King Kong, but they actually look like, to me, most of them, they are just, I see them as beggars. They don't know what they have.
Right.
In terms of
resources.
Okay.
You have to know yourself. If an American is coming here, sitting on the table, or pick his passport, for example, and going somewhere, he knows the passport is holding is huge.
Yeah.
Like, very important. So he would do things the American way because he knows his passport is there to kind of protect. So it's the same. If I'm wealthy and I enter into a room, I have to walk boldly, chest out. But our leaders, no. Most of them, no. The second thing is they don't have the country at heart. It's facts.
Yeah.
These are facts. They never. If you look at simple negotiations, where a layman will say, listen, if you give me 1 and I have 10, and if you give me 1 and it's this and that, I will not take
You're
it.
giving me one and you're taking 10.
10, but everything I will be doing it.
And
Where
it
does it
belongs to
work?
me, yeah.
And it belongs to me. It doesn't work. These are simple. I don't want to go deep into economics and blah blah
Yeah.
blah blah. But you can see simple stuff
Yeah.
that can be done
Right.
to protect not only the sector but the people in general.
I'm
They don't.
listening
So
to
the
the
problem we
argument.
have,
Yeah,
the
it's okay,
problem we
sorry.
have is just poor leadership.
Yeah, that's what I'm about to come to. I'm listening to both, and what I'm mainly hearing is it's pretty much the problem of the African governments.
Yeah.
Do you guys think the Western part does not kick in? There is nothing to do with the way we deal with the West or the way they deal with us?
I don't think we can take the worst out completely out of this. But at the end of the day, if you don't allow yourself, then no one can take you for a ride. And we are being taken. At least we think we're being taken for a ride because, like I said before, we don't have any systems in place to check these things. Because you can put 1 million policemen on the streets. You're going to have some corrupt. It doesn't matter if it's
Definitely, yeah.
Africa or anywhere else. Somebody comes to give you are struggling, and someone gives you $1 million, you're going to let him pass. It's everywhere in the world. But if you have systems in place, and anyone who goes against the system is punished,
Yeah.
that stops people from engaging. I mean, you're still going to find loopholes, but that stops on a large scale people from engaging in illegal activities and allowing someone to do something illegal. So for me, it goes back to the point where, yes, we can blame it on both sides, both our leaders and foreign, Western countries or whoever. But when you're doing business, you should know what belongs to you, and you should be entitled to it. Like he said, rightly said a while ago, that if the resource belongs, let's talk about resource. If a resource belongs to you, and you don't even have the technology or a way to get it out of the ground,
Yeah.
and you invite someone to come and do it, it's on my land. You should negotiate on your own terms.
Yeah.
You're going to do this for me, and I'm paying you off. You're not going to do it, and we share. But so far, the negotiations we've seen with our resources is, we discovered this resource. You bring your machines, your expertise, you mine it, take 90%, and I take 10%. But even the 10%, what I'm getting is the profits on the 10%. It's not really the principal 10%.
Exactly.
So if you make negotiations like this, am I going to blame the foreigner who is coming in? No, I think the fault is yours, because everyone, like he said, who's doing business wants to make money. So it doesn't matter if it's a foreigner or whatever. He wants to get the maximum out of it. So if you don't negotiate properly, don't come
It's
later
on
and
you.
blame me and say, I came and I cheated you. No, I came to your house. You didn't come to my house, So as we would like to blame, foreign countries or Western leaders or whatever, we have to blame us first, because we are missed.
I think it's never nice to listen to an European, his opinion on Africa, because of history.
History, yeah.
You understand? But what makes it, not the person speaking, but when you think about it, for me, where my pain is coming from is all these years, still our leaders have not learned anything. You see, that is where my pain is. That is why somebody like this guy will have the audacity to say the things he's saying. Truly, 80% of the things he said in there is the truth. You understand? Because Nigeria, for example, growing up, Nigeria was known for oil. Yeah? What happened? Saudi Arabia, some few years ago, oil, look at that country. So you have so many examples all over the world. That
You mean to say Dubai or
Dubai.
yeah.
But even if you look at Saudi,
all the Gulf states,
all the
yeah.
Gulf states.
Yeah.
If you look at them, look at how they've developed or they are developing, right? China. You see, when you talked about policies and how to safeguard your policies and stuff.
Yeah.
Are you telling me the Western? You can see in the media the Western world, they are always hammering China, right? But because they've safeguarded their policies, they're protecting themselves, the country, and actually the people,
right?
And their resources. They are doing what they can. You understand? And they are developing out of it. So when you sit back and look at the great continent of Africa, and you see all the resources. I always say this: without Africa, I wonder how the world would be like. You understand? And we have all this, but yet nothing is working.
Okay, so I just want our listeners to understand where we headed, because freedom of speech, right? We understand that because lots of African countries have the same policies, right?
Yeah.
As in their constitution, it's like freedom of speech. So I think this guy was exercising his freedom of speech. So we're not really gonna bash him or hate him or say, because like you said, truth is truth.
Yeah.
But just to give a bit of context, a bit of digging, this came up while we did a bit of digging. So based on a re-export data published in 2015, I think. Now, this is not too far back, because if we're going to talk about development, it spans over a period of time. So it doesn't matter how far back we go, it's still relevant. So 3 countries from Africa, which are Ethiopia, Uganda, and Cote d'Ivoire, they received $138 per bag, coffee bag. They were exporters of coffee. So Ethiopia received $138 per bag. Uganda received $71 per bag, a bag of coffee. Whereas Cote d'Ivoire received $68 per bag of coffee exported. Now, this same bag of coffee, Switzerland, when Switzerland exports the same bag of coffee, can you guess how much they sell them for? Just have an idea.
Don't even want to try.
Now try $700. So you can see the disparity, right? So these are some of the things that raise questions. How do we balance that scale? Because it's easy to say Africa, look, people are not managing their countries well, but are there hurdles that are systemically put in place to kind of create this kind of like, backwards environment for the African community or society? All right. Now, Nick Dearden in 2017 also wrote this. Now, he said, people don't understand that Africa is a net creditor to the rest of the world. Now, Africa contributes about $41 billion per year, right? And the crazy part is, like he's saying, most multinational corporations steal much of this monies. Do you understand? By what? Evading taxes, taking monies out of the countries they're operating illegally, so therefore not paying taxes in the country they're operating in. So all these monies leave the continent unchecked and illicitly.
Right.
This is one thing. Now, another thing I'm going to talk about, this guy's Yomi Kazim, published in 2020. He said the same thing. Users pay 3 times more when using what? Voice calls and the internet in Africa. 3 times more than any region in the world. So the question is, if you put all these things in perspective, how can the people make progress when everything is pretty much stacked against them?
Let me ask you, let me do what Ghanaians do.
Yeah.
Like we are good at a question with a question. Do you think our leaders don't know all this?
Now, they do know, but the question is, do they have any authority to fix it?
What authority do you need again after you being appointed head of, let's say, Minister of Health or Minister of Trade and Industry? What authority again do you need?
No, but we're talking dealing with an internationally powerful...
No, what authority? So before you sign a contract or before a contract is agreed, you need to put your signature there. Without your signature, there's no deal.
I get it. Can I give you a classic example?
No, so that is why I'm asking you, what authority do you need again? Because without your signature, there is no deal.
No, but I'm trying to answer your question, because in this case, it's more like supply and demand. You need your people to have internet. You need them to be able to make calls. Businesses are going to thrive. The economy is going to boom.
Yeah.
So the guy who's supposed to supply is saying, what? This is how much I'm going to charge you for my service. Now, you need this service. So do you say, no, I'm not going to pay for that?
Okay, let me come in here.
You're denying your people of basic
No,
things.
it's not about denying. Before you go here, in every contract or every deal, you have to look out for your personal interest. If I say personal, the country's interest.
Sure.
So that's why I'm asking. Do you think they don't know? So if you have your country interest, let's say you want to develop a region in Ghana. We have 16 regions. So let's say Oti region is the new place, and this deal will not even help to develop that place half. But another country will come in and with the similar resources and stuff, they will get 20 times what you're getting. Then you don't know what you have. That is what I'm saying.
Right. I think that I'll come from,
the point.
I'll come from this.
But yeah.
Yeah, I'll come from this angle. I think these problems between Africa or developing countries and the developed world, these problems have been, and they are entrenched. They've been around for a long time. So the playbook is there. They know how to twist it and turn and get you in a tight corner.
Yeah.
But I think that for me, the way, as an individual, if I have something, a resource, or something that gives me an advantage over somebody, I would want to use that to leverage for development.
Thank you.
Or for during negotiation. Now, we have resources that countries need, and without some of these resources, honestly, some industries cannot run.
Right.
Mobile phones, whatever. Look at the Congo, they have this
Cobalt
cobalt
and coltan and
exactly.
whatever.
So you need to, like I said, as an individual, you can't do it. During the world wars, people fought with ammunition. These days, I always say that you don't need to carry a gun to go and fight anyone. Use your resources as your main power to leverage for development. That's what we've not been able to do. Now, coming back to African setting, let's take, we are from Ghana, so we can talk about, use Ghanaian examples. Gold has been mined in Ghana since pre-colonial time. Even before the colonial masters, we already knew gold and were mining gold. We have companies like Obuasi Gold Mines, or Ashanti Gold, and all these other companies.
They change their name all the time.
Go to Obuasi and see that upon centuries and centuries of mining gold and exporting, what does the township of Obuasi, or let's call it city, whatever, in Ghana it might qualify as city, what does Obuasi look like? It doesn't look anything, it's not commensurate with the fact that almost all the gold is mined there.
Why?
That
is a good question.
Yeah.
But this goes back to almost what happened to Niger, right? They were selling the uranium to France for what? A fraction of what the world market was selling for. So in this instance, this is where my question comes in, right? Is it something that the government has control over and they deliberately, intentionally not paying attention to it?
I think
there are external forces out of their control.
It will be hard to know if there are external forces, but I think it still comes down to the leveraging of the resources as your power. If you know you don't have any other power, military-wise or negotiation power, just live. It's on your land. It's a sovereign country. If you don't give me A, I'm not giving you B.
Yeah, but I think we kind of like oversimplified it, because think about leverage, and I understand that, but at the end of the day, you do not have the capacity to refine these resources we're talking about. So if you do not sell it to these outside countries, you cannot generate revenue to run your country.
But I always like
you cannot
to
just keep the resource just sitting.
I like to keep it simple.
You need money coming in.
Keep it simple.
I think let me just come in real quick. I think if you stand your ground, maybe the resource that's in the ground, you don't have the capacity to use it now, but somebody else has need for it. So if the person needs it urgently and you stand your ground, it can take a while, but they will eventually bow because they can't get it anywhere else. That's why I was saying that if you know that you have a rare resource that somebody needs, they will eventually...
But isn't that rare though?
It is, because sometimes you have it in other places, but the quality is different.
For me, I always keep it simple. You have to break even. At least break even. But if you look at the numbers that have been mentioned with what you just read, if your father, let's keep it simple. If your family elder is the one selling your family property or your family, what do you call it, treasures for this cheap, but you know it can be sold 20, 40 times higher. How would you feel?
Right. All right, cool. Moving on. So my next question is going to become, hypothetically speaking, if all these so-called Western...
But you did not answer my question.
Which was?
Our leaders, do you think they don't know?
I'm not saying, I think they do know, but I think they do not have any authority. They have no power whatsoever
then we should not have leaders
to change the narrative. I don't think they do.
But do you think they don't know?
No, I think they're not what I said.
So if
do
they don't
know.
have the power, do we necessarily need them in positions?
No, I think it's
Then we should
easier-
govern ourselves.
No, I think it's easier said. I think it's a bit more complicated than that because I feel like if you do not sell what you have, right, you cannot get money to do infrastructure
Development. I
stuff
get
like
that. I get that.
So you have the resources, you got to sell, but that's where the trick comes in, right? Why do we sell it for like a fraction of what the world market sells for?
And that's another
Classic example
Yeah.
is Niger, right? The uranium. We all heard
Right.
they were selling for like what, $8
Yeah.
per kilo when it was like over $100
Check the
or
amount you are
pounds.
selling the
I forgot. I might be
lithium.
mistaken. I mean, I stand to
Check
be
the amount
corrected.
you're selling the
but
lithium.
that's another problem there because we're always thinking of selling.
Yeah.
Why don't we build our own local
factories.
industries?
Yeah, industries.
Use these things.
But this is where my question comes in.
Yeah.
Do you think the governments are shunning all these ideas on purpose, or there is a very, very legitimate reason why they cannot get them done, which is things are literally out of their control?
I think sometimes yes, the pushback is there, but if you know that the pushback is there and you know that it's putting you in trouble, why don't we sit back and do our homework and consume our own? I don't think it's, if you're going to build factories or establish an industry within your own country, I don't think it's
you
going to
have-
be that difficult to do.
I wanted
China
to
has done it. Many
Exactly,
countries,
that's what
South
the
Korea.
reference I'm coming to make.
Right.
We all grew up, we've read books, we've gone to places, we've seen things. I've seen China develop right in front of my eyes.
Yeah.
At least even for the past 10 years. I've seen it. I asked a question earlier. Does that mean the Chinese or those other countries we mentioned, the Singapores, and they didn't have pushbacks? They did.
Yeah.
They did, but it is the people they put in positions where they think about the country first. They think about their country 1st. They know the resources they have.
Right. And the
They
beginning,
use it as a
Right.
tool to
Right.
gain what they're looking for. Because yes, you cannot turn gold into money. Somebody needs to buy before you get the money. But before that person will buy,
Yeah.
you have to sell it to the person
Right.
at a price that if you go back to where you mine that gold, it can help you to develop other stuff.
right. And,
So if you're not able to do that, you cannot always go around complaining, blaming other people.
Yeah.
Yes, there are greedy people in this world. They will come forever. But
Yeah.
know what you have and use because it is.
It is mind blowing. I mean, sometimes I do think about it. It's like we have Africa, right? I mean,
Yeah.
when I say we, it's not like personally. We have not like resources all over the place, from country to country, endless. But the question is like, why is it the value of our currency is that low? Because we have the resources, we have the naturally sourced products. Or
Hold
gems,
on.
whatever
Okay.
minerals
Okay.
you call
Cool.
it. So why is our currency the
They should make
lowest
our
on
currency the
planet?
lowest. But I know what I have. Let's say lithium. Yeah. I know they need the lithium for this and that and that and that. Without my lithium, you cannot do it. So even if my currency is low, but I want to sell the lithium, let's say a bucket or whatever, for a kilo, for just let's say $100. Yeah. I have to convert it in my currency. As much as it's low, it still has to meet. So even if I make it $100, that is I'm not coming down. I'm not going down.
So last words. So basically, let's wrap it up. Do you think this guy was spewing gibberish? He was spewing like garbage, or you think he had a point, and it's not such a big deal like people are making it seem?
I think he has a point. I think we have to be honest about our situation and accept. Well, I don't accept the fact that somebody else has to tell us what we should be doing.
Yeah.
So it's something we all know, and we should actually be doing something about it. So on his part, I think I would even go ahead to say that he's rather helping us, or he's prompting us on something that we already know. Maybe it's just a reminder. It's not like we don't know.
You don't need to
But
shoot them.
at the end of the day, I think that we should accept the blame on ourselves and do something about it, because what he's saying is not new. We already know about it, that we have been taken for a ride. We have everything we need to grow, but we are still not growing. So at the end of the day, my final comment is, and I'll just chip in what you said about the dollar. We all accept that to do trade with other countries have different currencies. To do trade, we need one currency as a way of foreign exchange. And the US dollar happens to be the one. I don't have a problem with that. But in order to balance your sheet, you need to produce your basic needs. Then you don't have to spend your hard-earned local currency to go and buy a US dollar, to go and buy rice or sugar from somewhere else, something that you can produce internally. If you take your hard-earned money to go and buy the very things that you can produce, and you come back and say you are poor, then at the end of the day, you're just being, I don't know how to describe it, but it just seems very, very myopic to think that you will not keep being poor, because at the end of the day, you're using your currency to buy something internationally that you can produce locally. So don't come and tell me you're suffering.
So at the end of the day, those are your last words.
Right.
You see, with the, for us not to, the guy's video, yeah, when you listen to the entire video, he says certain things he shouldn't have. If he has left it to some point, it would have made perfect sense. But the video is great to some extent. One, it's telling us we need to sort our home. Yeah, sort out our home. Get off our high horses and sort out our home. The second is, you can see the fear from what he's saying. You can see he's scared that if we are able to sort out our home, how powerful we'll become.
Yeah, the second part of the video.
That's the second part of the video.
Right.
So, yes, there might be some certain tone, as in warmongering or whatever. But if you dip it carefully and listen to the entire video, you realize that 90% of the things he's saying, if we are able to sit and then we look, like we've just gone through some of the stats here, we are selling our continent too short.
Yeah.
Way too below the exchange rate.
All right.
So no one takes us seriously.
All right, cool.
Nobody takes us serious. So we blame ourselves. I'm not in position, but I blame my leaders.
All right. That's your take?
I'm done.
All right. At least he's done.
No,
all right,
it
cool.
was longer.
Yeah, so to kind of like put things in perspective, let's wrap it up. So I really do think, as far as freedom of speech goes, he had the right to say whatever he said. Is it going to hurt people's feelings? Yeah, but that's what freedom of speech is supposed to do. It's supposed to make you sit and think, right, about what other people are saying. It depends on how you take it, right? I also feel like he had a lot of good things to say. The part that he mentioned about Wakanda, or having a utopian world was pretty funny, because nobody knows why you would bring up Wakanda. Yeah. I mean, it's a fictional tale, so I don't even know what it's. But to be on a more serious note, it's like people are saying, I mean, he had point, but it should not be coming from him. What is that supposed to mean? Well, because he's white and he's the Westerner. We cannot, I mean, lie to ourselves and be like, no, the West has nothing to do with what's happening in Africa, or in history, slavery, all those periods had nothing to do with what's going on now. We do understand that. But to be honest, at some point, you have to move past that, right? You cannot keep repeating the same narrative over and over and over again. Because as we said, China went through a phase like that, right? They had their own problems with Japan.
Most of these countries, they've done it.
Exactly, right? A lot of invasions, but they picked up the pieces and they've moved on. So his other things that made sense, I mean, honestly, if you do not look at this guy as a white guy or somebody from the West, and you listen to your own, race saying the same thing, you would say, yeah, he's got a point.
Yeah.
So I think we should not necessarily look at the messenger and actually listen to the message he has.
Yeah.
That notwithstanding, like I said, I mean, we all know the West interferes in everything, globally, not just in Africa. And like you said about Playbook, it feels like there's an agenda to keep Africa poor, but that is not to say that the Africans cannot do what they need to do, right?
Yeah.
An agenda is somebody else's plan, but you can also do what you need to do to deter that plan. So at the end of the day, it's the internet. He said what he had to say. We've said what we have to say, right? These are our opinions on it. Now, we delved into it because, firstly, it's like, we need to talk about what's going on in Africa. We don't just have to talk about the video and simply say, the guy was saying garbage, this white guys. Nah, you have to kind of address issues from the grassroots. And we do understand that there's a lot of problems that if we get handled correctly back home, things might get better for the average person.
Yeah,
so on that note, leave your comment down below. Let's see what you think. Let's know what you think, or whatever you feel, what your emotions are, or what's going on in your head, all right? So from us here, we'll see you on the next episode.
Yeah. Peace out.